welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and after all summer of not being able to put on makeup due to a medical condition, which is now gone, I can do makeup again, which feels fun, but I had to get all my summer colors out now before fall comes. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in August. Now, the first thing I read in August was Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. If you want my full thoughts and review of this book, I have a whole video dedicated to this book already on my channel. Please go check that one out if you want further thoughts and feelings. Yes, I did back the Kickstarter to get the special edition fancy book. I do an unboxing in that video as well if you're into those. And yet another vlog that I did this month where I got a new PC and I was working through that as well as doing some chores and doing some rereads. I reread Band Sinister, one of my favorite historical Achillean romances of all time, but I also found a new 5-star favorite, and that's Savor It by Tara DeWitt. This is a small town grumpy sunshine romance that I absolutely adored. Again, if you want full thoughts and feelings about both of these books, especially Savor It, I would check out that vlog as well. August was a bit of a strange reading month. I don't want to say I was in a reading slump, but I was I read 3 books in a row back to back that were all middle of the road. So that's a little bit of a sneak peek for the rest of this video. So in an attempt to kind of get out of my reading funk, shall we say, I did a bunch of rereading. And so I'm gonna quickly talk through what I reread. These are books I've read before, I've talked about before on my channel, but I thought I'd breeze through them rather quickly. Let's start with Night Film by Marisha Pessl. This is a thriller that kind of got me into the thriller genre a little bit. I don't read a ton of thrillers, and so to me this one, when I originally read it, was exciting, thrilling, atmospheric. I really liked the mixed media elements in this book. However, I listened to it on audio, and I think that was to this book's detriment. And also, I don't know if thrillers have a lot of rereadability because I knew what was going to happen, even though it's been 8 years since I read this. It's been a long time. So this was ultimately, like, originally I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. My enjoyment of this reread is probably a 3-star listening to the audiobook. So I averaged out my rating as a 3.5. This is a solid thriller, but again, I don't know how rereadable thrillers are. So that's on me. Then 2 of my favorite cozy fantasy romances are Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I have a whole review up for this book, and I've read it many, many times since its release. This is about an orc barbarian named Viv who wants to settle down and open a coffee shop, and she has a little bit of a found family and a little bit of a teeny tiny little side romance going on in here, and I adore this. 5 stars, obviously. And of course we have Paladin's Grace. I was really looking for cozy good times, and I found them in these rereads. This is about Stephen, who's is a former paladin, and his god actually died, and so this is about him and his fellow paladins trying to pick up the pieces, and him falling in love with a perfume maker named Grace. I adore this. I adore this world. I adore T. Kingfisher's fantasy romances quite a bit. Again, 5 stars. Love this. Now let's get into the 3 new things that I read this month that I thought were just okay. Unfortunately, the first is Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. I loved Out on a Limb by this author deeply. I love that book so much, and this is this author's newest release. And this is a marriage in trouble / second chance romance. So we've got Sarah and Caleb, and they've been high school sweethearts, and they got married really young because Sarah's mother was dying of cancer, and they wanted to get married before she passed away. So this book does deal heavily with that topic of grief and loss of a parent, so be warned. The two of them basically go on this like week-long hiking retreat to try and like reconnect and rekindle their marriage. This book ultimately wasn't that fun to read. This one is Sarah. Her feelings are very valid. She feels very much stuck in her marriage, very like Caleb always swings by and saves the day, and she doesn't have anything for herself. She doesn't work. She doesn't have like a traditional job. Her husband kind of provides for her. And so she's feeling kind of like she doesn't have a purpose, doesn't, you know, all those types of feelings. And those feelings are valid, and I understand why she would feel that way. It's just not that fun to read about. And the backdrop of the hiking trip didn't add a level of levity or fun to the story that I thought it was sorely needing. Overall, I just thought this was okay. I gave it 3 stars, and it's just not my kind of romance. I did think this author did a pretty decent job of showing us flashbacks to the previous, like the lead up to their current relationship status and like how they met and kind of like their relationship through the years. I thought this author did a pretty good job, but the execution of the present day timeline was just fine to me. Then we have Advocate by Daniel M. Ford. This is the 3rd and final question mark book in this series. The first is The Warden. The first book is The Warden, the second book is Necrobane, the last book is Advocate. This, without getting into spoilers, our main character, Alice, has kind of been whisked away back to the city to solve a mystery there. And unfortunately, we lose a lot of the small town charm and found family that she had established the previous 2 books. To those books' detriment, in my opinion. The mystery and the plot was more engaging because she's in the city, there's more going on, the plot is bigger and more politically complicated, but it lost some of the charm and the je ne sais quoi. You know what I mean? The other thing that I didn't super love about this book is it felt like our main character was kind of muscling through her problems by either throwing her warden status or her status as a daughter of nobility and her money and privilege around to solve her problems instead of using her wits and like detective skills to find information and get what she needs and to get out of sticky situations, which I thought is ultimately pretty disappointing to me and kind of falls flat and is a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, disappointing is about right. It's just, it doesn't feel as like earned and fulfilling to me personally, so I wasn't loving that. And the other thing I had to say about this in my notes is that we are book 3 in the series and Ailish still has the same flaws and they still crop up in the same ways in this book as they did in previous books. I understand for character continuity, the characters shouldn't change so much, but there needs to be character growth in some ways, and I feel like Ailish was just kind of annoying. It was kind of annoying to read about the same flaws over and over again. Her temper, again, the muscling through, throwing her privilege around. It was just kind of like, okay, we're in book 3. Maybe you should have gotten over this by now. Maybe you should have grown up a little bit, to be honest. So that was a little disappointing as well. The other thing is there are no more books slated to be published in this series, but the author has hinted at that he has like at least 3 other books like in his head for this character and for this series, and I think it shows. The ending of this book didn't feel like a true ending of this series, and I think that's, you know, that's not really the author's fault. That has to do with the publishing industry, and the publishers only picked up the first 3 books, but it ultimately led me to be kind of disappointed in the ending of this one. Overall, this was a fine time to get through, but again, it was just kind of middle of the road, and I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. If there are more books in the series, I may pick them up, but I think I might borrow them from the library just to see what's what. And the last book I have to talk about is Wearing the Lion by John Wiswell. This is the author of Someone You Can Build a Nest In, which is a medieval fantasy horror romance slash cozy fantasy, kind of wrapped in one, which I absolutely adored that book. So I decided to pick up his newest work. And this is a Hercules retelling from the perspective of Heracles and Hera, going back and forth through time. And if you're familiar with the Hercules myth, you might know that this is kind of an effed up story to begin with. And this is about what happens, primarily what happens after, spoiler alert, I guess, for the mythology, but it has to do with Heracles' grief after he kills his family. Hera kind of makes him go crazy, and he kills his children, and this is kind of the aftermath of that story. And it's about him, instead of defeating all of the creatures in the original myth, he has them become his newfound family, is kind of the gist of this story. And one thing I will say about this is the tone of this book is very colloquial, very flippant, very easy to digest language, very modern in its language. There's a lot of swearing. There's a lot of modern words used in this book. So it doesn't feel like some, you know, it's not like Madeline Miller, you know, it's a very colloquial retelling. And while I appreciate what the author was trying to do with this, this truly dragged out for way too long. We go through every single, what is it, the Act of Hercules, or the, what are those called? I can't recall, but every single thing Hercules has to do in the original myth is retold in great depth in this book. We're getting Hera's perspective as well, which also felt like it dragged the story. Hera is obviously trying to deal with the fact that her husband is Zeus and he cheats on her all the time, and she's taking out all of her anger on Heracles, even though he is an innocent in all of this, and she's kind of grappling with that. And there's some power struggles going on with the gods. Just ultimately, I think I applaud what this author was trying to do, but I think honestly the maybe it was the tone and the messaging didn't quite align for me and make this, again, like a fun, I don't think this story is supposed to be fun, but it didn't make it an enjoyable read for me. Again, I gave this like 3 stars. I thought it was fine. Just didn't quite work in its execution for me. And that's it. Kind of a light reading month this go around, but I did happen to find a new 5-star favorite in Savor It by Tara DeWitt. What did you read in August? I would love to know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video of mine very soon. Bye!